Is that Dracoslayers and Plunder Patroll actually sailing into the top cut for this event? Oddly enough, it is. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So, Tables and Towers had another case tournament here for you guys. Now, I will say that your breakdown for this tournament, very, very interesting. We had two tier elements in top cut. Tier with the Bysteel package ends up winning the tournament. I'm not surprised about that. I mean, Tier's projected to be the best deck in the room, right? Yeah. It is. We had two Runic decks in Top Cut, to be honest with you. Runic being the menace that it is. I mean, it's sprite stuff, good stuff. It's all about whatever variations and things that you can merge with sprite to get the maximized results in order to have the deck end up working its best magic for consistency. It just so happened that both variants, the topped, were Runic sprite. So do that info what you will. It definitely goes to show that this deck is not something that you really want to mess around with. Now, your one-ofs are the most interesting things about this event. Sword Soul ended up getting second place out of this event, which is also quite interesting at the end of the day, that this deck definitely holds on for dear life, which is very, very strong. We also had a Bysteel branded deck. We've seen Bysteel branded kind of start to make these little waves across the TCG, but I don't think a lot of people have really paid attention to that variant, so that got the chance to stick around. We also had Dracoslayers in the top cut for this, which I'm actually super excited to talk about that list here in a little bit. And then we had Plunder Patroll sailing on into the top cut as well. Now, all things considered, that's a lot of strong rogue competition for this event, and I think it definitely goes to say something about this particular format, that like rogue can do well. You just got to have outs to tier elements, and the Bysteel cards kind of help with that. Let's pass on over to those top deck lists. Winning your event is none other than tier elements. As I said, we have that Branded and High Spirits package here. I will say that Branded and High Spirits has definitely been the TCG's like big equivalent this format. Also, you know, being able to get to Albion, getting access to our dear friend Cartesia. There's a lot going on. I also will say that only 2 Scream in this is fine. No crimes in the main deck out of the YCS this weekend. You kind of saw that crime definitely stepped up and showcased some particularly powerful interactions within the format. So that's kind of interesting to see. Outside of that, only 1 EV. You can still Curious Griffin on back, really depending on how the situation ends up. And I see that we're also playing Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries in the side deck as well. And then, of course, this deck now getting access to Baron de Flor because, you now have a level 4 tuner monster that basically is a free special summon onto the field. Yu-Gi-Oh! Next up here was our second place Sword Soul. For Sword Soul to make it all the way to second place is actually very crazy, because when you look at this main deck, I don't see we're playing DD Crow, which, I mean, okay. I see that we just 2 Crows, 2 Ash, and then some board breakers in the droplets. We have a Feather Duster in the main deck, and then we have Talents. Honestly, your main deck is pretty standard at this point. And you will see a lot of the consistent deck builds across the board that might look like they're time capsule, but since this is more of a localized event, you will see, more results that might not fit the bill. Also, the fact that we're not playing Dimension Shifter at all in the side deck or the main deck actually is kind of interesting, but kudos for Sword Soul, still doing what Sword Soul does. Rivalry of the Warlords is definitely going to be one of those cards that will continue to carry this deck on for a very, very long time, for sure. Alright, next up here, our first Runic Sprite list. First thing I want to say here is we have double Druis Worm with triple Magnema in the main deck. We are not playing the third Druis Worm, so we're basically relying on those 5 cards to be our spot removal. We are playing one of the Sprite Trap card in this deck, which is actually kind of nice. Being able to take control of an opponent's monster on a trap is free real estate. I mean, sometimes you might want to save the Smasher for an additional turn, but that's what you're going to get with that. We're also siding 2 Fenrirs down there. that's actually really good. I have seen some builds with Runic this past weekend that definitely wanted to see the Fenrir's in the main deck, but I think 2 is fine. Also, the 2 Priya with the 1 cap shell also ends up working out fine. You have 2 draw effects that you'll be able to use in order to get off the ground and make sure that you can start generating those advantage chicken nuggies that you really want to see in a deck like this. So I do like this. This is a little bit more tacked out to my taste. Next up here, 4th place. This is our Dracoslayer list. Now, first of all, 2 Magnamut, 1 Drusworm in the main deck is fine. You do see that we are playing the 1 Dino Mist, amazing spell card in the main deck. We are main decking Fenrir's, so you can get those special summon bodies onto the field. The Bambukus to search for the Magic Spectre Dracoslayer. Basically, how this deck is going to work is your game plan is you're going to go ahead and you're going to start filtering through all of your not once per turns. You're going to start setting up this relatively big board. You have Beyond the Pendulum, you have Zelantis to assist you, and then you're basically good to go. I also see double Beyond the Pendulum in there for the extension turns, and we are playing Ariadne down here with some Solemn Judgments in the side deck. You're going to get really saucy here with this deck. That's actually kind of cool. Also, the fact you can blow up the Ariadne and then, go search for a Solemn Judgment is actually really, really awesome. So I do like this deck. This is some really cool Pendulum. Next up is our 2nd Runic variant for Sprite. Now, this build is opting to not play the cap shell. We're just going to rely on the 2 Priyas to get us off the ground. We are also not playing any of the Bysteel package in the main or side. Other interesting notes, once again, you do see the trap card down here for Sprite. So for the slower build like this, actually I guess this would technically be the faster build because this is the one that generates all the advantage for this deck. You're basically able to kind of get the free steal, double smashers in the main deck. We're also main decking triple super poly. This build is pretty much aimed to handle 95% of the BS that might actually come out of the meta, and I think that that's actually quite good. I don't have anything else really to say about this. The rest of this looks very, very standard. I guess the Sealing of the Graveyard spell card might be out there, but we've seen that before. Next up is Plunder Patrol. Yes! Finally, something a little bit different. So this is where you're going to set up your adventure package. I will say that because this deck is still able to use that adventure package, that this is one of the few decks in the format that really maximizes your advantage off of it, because that adventure token does so much for this deck. All right? It definitely allows it to compete. Now, once the new ship comes out, the Jort, you'll see a little bit more for this deck takeoff. Also, full board breakers, your Rite of Armesia package to set up your negate, and then DD Crow's interruptions to pretty much handle the rest of what this deck wants to do. No Magnamuts, none of the new cards needed. So this kind of once again goes to show you that a deck like this can still keep up in the metagame and is able to do so without the addition of these crazy new expensive cards. So actually awesome to still see Plunder Patrol sailing the 7 seas a top cut. Next up here is our Bysteel Dragon Link, or excuse me, our Bysteel Albaz. Double Lubellion in the main deck. We are doing 1 Branded and High Spirits. Okay. Of course, since we're playing Lubellion, you get Branded, Regained, Branded Beast in here. Double Super Poly, double Poly. 2 of the Patchworks in here as well. I see that we're on triple Drusworm, triple Magnamut, 2 Saronir. That is fine. Side deck, double Ultimate Slayer. Okay. That's kind of cute. We're citing the other Saronir as well. And then we have access to triple Eradicator. We have triple Raigeki and 2 Offerings to the Doomed. Holy crap, man. And the 3rd Super Poly is in the side deck. This duelist did not want to deal with anything that would come across this format. Like, this deck is massively tacked out to handle a lot of the underlying issues that you might see within the format. Whoo-wee! Actually is a monster of a deck. Next up here is our Tier Elements good stuff. And yeah, Tier Elements with your Despia package. I will say for the most part, the Branded Expulsion with the Ra's Disciple is kind of hilarious. I've seen like the Christia variants, but handing your opponent a Ra's Disciple just kind of feels a little bit stronger at the end of the day. Honestly, outside of that, triple Branded High Spirits is normal. Only 2 Paralineo because we are doing the Magical Meltdown for the Alistair shenanigans in here as well. Oh, look, we have a normal summon engine in my Despia deck besides a Luber. Huh. Well, outside of that, that's your breakdown for tables and towers. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment about, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.